Something's off about the world right now. I think that's very apparent. Okay, I mean you can feel it before you can explain it. I mean it hits you in small moments. It's the tone people use, uh, the way everyone seems so tense, right? It's the sense that everyone around you is stretched so thin. I mean you don't need a high IQ to notice it. It's apparent. I mean, you just need to be paying attention. You need freaking eyeballs. That's it. Eyeballs, ears, and a pulse. And that's the thing. The more that you pay attention, the clearer it becomes to you. The world isn't sliding toward one outcome. It isn't. It's splitting. Same country, same cities, same streets, but the experience of living in them is completely different depending on where you land. People, they imagine collapse like it's going to just show up one day, like in the movies, and everyone will see it at the exact same time, and it will be widespread. But here's the thing: that's not how things fall apart. It starts in the parts of town that most people never have a reason to drive through, right? It's the neighborhoods with half shuttered stores, the schools that nobody transfers into, the blocks where you can't tell if a building is abandoned or just, neglected. You see it in the emergency rooms that can't keep staff, right? In the buses that stop running on time. It's in streets that they just stay busted up because there's never enough money set aside to repair anything. I mean, if you want a real life example, just look at Detroit about 10 years ago. I lived there a decade ago in 2014 and a little bit of 2015. I mean, it felt like living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. I mean, that's when The Walking Dead was still, a few seasons in. It felt like living in The Walking Dead, shy of there being zombies, of course. But I would just, I had a bike at the time. I didn't even have a car. So I was riding around that entire city on a bicycle. I saw everything. When you're in a car, you miss things. But when you're on a bike, you don't. You see every nook and cranny. I mean, just whole sections of the city were basically holding on by a thread. I mean, you had packs of wild dogs that would attack people. You had street lights that didn't work. You had street lamps that didn't work. It was dark in a lot of areas. You couldn't see anything. And then for if you needed police or EMT, forget about it. I mean, it would take them nearly an hour to respond, if that, maybe longer. And just houses just sitting empty for years because nobody had the funds or the incentive to restore them. Sure, there were some that did get restored, but I mean, I lived in a very blighted neighborhood around New Center that didn't have. It was not nice. There was a very sketchy shopping center with I think a Family Dollar, and there was one house there was two houses that were crumbling. One that looked like somebody had set a fire in at one point. And then another one that was falling apart that was scheduled for demolition. And then I think there was a trap house down the street that had a bulldog chained to it. But I mean, yeah, you could, if you had a car, you could drive just 5 minutes in the wrong direction and suddenly feel like you'd crossed into a completely different country. Or world, like I said. I mean, but meanwhile, the nicer suburbs, just right outside the city, they kept functioning. They were beautiful. I mean, you'd have kids at soccer practice and families just, at the park and shopping at Target. And, while these, huge parts of Detroit were just quietly collapsing, just one building and one block and one service at a time. I mean, that's how decay works now. It's slow and it's uneven. The people with money or influence, they don't live in those early warning zones. They don't feel any of it until much, much later. I mean, by the time the problems finally reach the areas everyone assumes are stable, the suburbs, the business corridors, those good neighborhoods, the decay has already been spreading underneath everything for years and years and years. I mean, take Baltimore, for instance. Baltimore shows how a city can split into two completely different worlds depending on who has resources and who doesn't. The entire neighborhoods they lost their tax base, they lost employers, they lost stability. Meanwhile, in the inner harbor, it stayed polished and busy and completely insulated, right? Same city, two opposite outcomes. I mean, you even see the same pattern in other countries. Parts of Brazil, they grew into modern financial hubs, while neighboring districts they struggled to keep basic services on. South Africa, I mean, you could drive from secure high-end neighborhoods to areas with failing utilities in freaking minutes. Minutes. Pakistan, it went through phases where private wealth it stayed comfortable while public systems they fell apart all around. Same with Venezuela. I mean, certain places had stores with stocked shelves, while there was entire surrounding districts that just dealt with shortages and constant rolling blackouts. And like I said, none of that was instant collapse. There was a separation. The split between areas that had enough money to hold on and areas that didn't. Between the people that could move if they so chose, and people who were just stuck. Right? Between those neighborhoods that that attracted investment and the neighborhoods that basically just were abandoned. I mean, the real problem is this. I mean, once a city splits into those protected zones and forgotten zones, I mean, the slide doesn't reverse. It locks in. It locks in. But the physical decline isn't the whole picture here. It isn't. The bigger shift, it happens inside people. Just think about it. I mean, the psychology of the entire country, it feels hollowed out. Like people are just moving through their lives with nothing left in the tank. You can hear it in how they talk. You can see it in how they carry themselves. Like I said, you don't have to be a genius to spot it. It's pretty easy to see when you go outside your front door. I mean, if you want a picture of where the mindset is heading, just think less Mad Max and more Children of Men. There's a profound emptiness. If you haven't seen Children of Men, you should watch it. It came out in 2006. So if you haven't seen it by now, I don't know what you're doing. And interestingly enough, the year that it starts out in is 2027. That's crazy. That's wild. But yeah, I mean, when people stop believing that the future is worth preparing for, I mean, everything around them just starts slipping. You're seeing it. You've been seeing it. Families get delayed, and it's not just because life feels unstable, but because the culture itself around relationships and men and women has completely changed. Men do not feel protected by the system because they are not. Women are protected by the system. And a lot of these men, they've already watched how quickly a family can be taken apart through family law, custody battles, all that good stuff, right? Because the culture, it places every burden on them and none of the support. So yeah, it makes people hesitate, especially men. It makes them second guess building anything at all. Because it's a gamble. It can just be taken from them in an instant. And while that's all happening, the social fabric is thinning in other places. in throughout daily life. I mean, people, relationships, friendships. I mean, people just stop calling each other. I mean, plans start to fade out. Can you remember the last time you had a real conversation? I mean, real conversations, they just don't exist anymore. Why? Because half the country is too checked out or too conditioned to recognize what's even happening right now. Meanwhile, the other half is barely holding their life together. Seriously, I mean, you're talking to people who either can't think past the script they've absorbed their entire lives, or they can't think past the dumpster fire they're currently living in. And I mean, that's really where the isolation sets in. You see it all over the internet. You do. Like I said, women be freaking out in their cars and stuff a lot. You see it in grocery stores, gas stations, traffic, at work, if you even still have a job, right? Everywhere you look, people are stretched past their limit, and it's spilling out in all directions. All directions. Everybody's losing their goddamn minds because nobody has anything left to hold themselves together anymore. And there's also countless people that are struggling quietly, dealing with thoughts and problems they never talk about. And the world, it just moves too fast for anyone to check in with one another. So what happens? Substance use blends into daily routines. The pressure keeps stacking up while the average person feels smaller and smaller and smaller and more overwhelmed and less equipped to deal with any of it. So they resort to their vices, right? A lot of men, they just start pulling back because every single direction just feels blocked, right? Money's tight. It feels unstable. And the responsibilities, well, they just keep piling up, okay? They do. They just keep piling up. And after a while, adulthood, it doesn't feel like something you stepped into anymore. It just feels like something that slipped past you while you were too busy trying to survive, because everyone is no one's adulting anymore. Everyone's surviving now, okay? And while the bottom is sinking and the middle is mentally checked out, there is a whole different world pulling away at the top. Oh, I'm talking about a layer of people who aren't feeling any of this, who aren't touched by the strain or the instability that you are touched by. And that's where the picture really changes, because their reality doesn't look anything like yours. At the top, it's a completely different universe. It is a breakaway civilization. These people don't rely on paychecks. They're not living paycheck to paycheck like you, okay? Their money does not come from that. It comes from ownership and investments and equity and businesses, right? They aren't worrying about getting laid off because they're the one doing the layoffs. They're the ones that are deciding who gets laid off. And then whining about how hard it is. Their neighborhoods, they stay clean and safe, okay? Because they're shielded behind gates and cameras and private security and layers and layers and layers of people whose entire job is to keep their reality separate from ours. Just think about that scene in Fight Club where they jump that guy in the bathroom. He says, we cook your meals, we do this, we do that. We protect you while you sleep. We are that layer. We are the people that create the layers for those other people. That we're the ones that are separating our reality from theirs. We're the ones that are keeping them insulated. We're the ones that are giving them health care that's concierge level. I mean, their kids, they get tutors, specialists, connections, doors just open for them before they even are old enough to know what an advantage even is. When something breaks, they just throw money at it and it gets fixed by the next morning. And guess what? One of those people in the middle that's checked out, that has that that unending list of to-dos, they're the one that's fixing it. When the economy dips, they just treat it like it's a sale, right? They don't lose anything. The country can be falling apart at the seams, but up there at the top, life's good. It still works because the system, it bends for them. It never touches them. When you really pay attention to what's happening, you start to see the divide for what it is. The bottom and the middle, they're both getting squeezed, man. They're getting squeezed hard. One is drowning and the other is trying not to. Different levels of the same pressure. But at the top, dude, they're not dealing with any of this. They aren't. They're drifting into a completely separate reality that has nothing to do with the one that everyone else is stuck in. Like I said, it's a breakaway civilization, a whole other world. At the bottom, I mean, you'll have places that don't feel connected to the rest of the country anymore. Like I was saying earlier, like with Detroit and Baltimore, I mean, you've got entire neighborhoods that can't rely on anything. They can't, not the police, not city services, not EMT, not the, not even the power grid, nothing. The streets stay broken. The trash just piles up. No one's coming. And then the few stores that are still open, they lock everything behind bulletproof glass, right? People just hustling and trading and doing whatever it takes to survive because they don't have a safety net underneath them. I mean, you see it. You see pieces of it already, like parts of Detroit, for instance, or not Detroit, Chicago. Where the city basically pretends the blocks don't exist. And you got Kensington over in Philadelphia, over in Philly, good old Philly. You've seen it online. Where the sidewalks look like freaking something out of a zombie horror film. It's a failed state. Same with Skid Row. You got tents and addiction just lining up on whole streets. St. Louis, Oakland. You've been there? Half the residents, they don't even trust the police to even pick up the dang phone. I mean, shoot, it's not even just the big cities. I mean, you've got small town middle America that has boarded up main streets and empty factories and just, whole communities that feel completely forgotten. But like I said, my point is the country, it won't fall apart all at once. It breaks like drywall, right? First a crack, then another. And then entire sections just give out, right? While everyone just keeps walking past, pretending nothing's happening. And in the middle, you've got most people, they're not in danger of starving. They're not out in the streets yet. But they're barely keeping themselves together. They're working all the time. But they're constantly feeling like they're falling behind no matter what they do. They're exhausted to the bone. Right? You've been there, checking your bank account every few days or few hours just to make sure that nothing's about to bounce. Feeling drained and just completely disconnected from life and your family and just everything all around you. Going through life like everything is one long to-do list and nothing ever gets crossed off. And if something does, there's always something there to replace it. That's the thing about the middle. They're not protesting. They're not rising up. They're not falling apart in public. Well, I guess the internet's kind of public. I mean, they're falling up. Well, a lot of women are falling apart in their cars. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of falling apart in public. But here's the thing is like, no one's really living anymore, especially in the middle. The bottom and the middle, they're not living. They're stuck in, at least the middle is stuck in that children of men headspace, right? Where the light is gone from their eyes. That's the thing. You can notice it when you're out in public and you look at somebody's eyes. The life is gone. And I don't think it's because they don't care. I mean, they cared too long. They cared past the point of burnout. They cared until it hurt. And once caring hurts, you stop doing it. You stop doing it to protect whatever little you've got left going on inside of you. Caring is a limited resource now. But yeah, the middle is the layer that keeps the country running. Yet it's also the layer that feels the least supported. I mean, it's the one that's holding everything up. It's paying most of the taxes. Fitting the bill. Absorbing every cost of the system. A system that isn't built for them. It's built against them. And they can feel themselves fading year after year after year. But life at the top, at that tippy top, you've got people who live in a completely different America, a different America entirely. They don't wait in line. They don't worry about bills. All right, they're not losing sleep. Wondering where their next month's rent's coming from. Right. Their kids, they go to school with resources. Their healthcare isn't some overbooked clinic. It's private doctors who answer their phone on weekends. If they want something, they buy it. Like I said earlier, if something breaks, someone fixes it immediately. These people don't feel stress. They don't feel the stress that everyone else is drowning in. It's living in a spotless neighborhood where everything gets repaired first and your problems get solved immediately. It's not stressful, right? Like I said, they live behind gates and cameras and guards. Just money, just layers and layers of insulation between them and the reality that everyone else wakes up into. Right? You got Marge and Bruce, just having another fine evening in the Hamptons on their yacht, just watching the sunset while they drink Cristal. And while the rest of the country is, tightening its belt and bracing for whatever's coming next, the top is acting like nothing's wrong. Right? Their doors open while everyone else is watching theirs close. They get more secure, more protected, more untouched by the world. And all three of these worlds are going to exist in the same cities, sometimes on the same day, separated by a 15-minute drive. And here's the reality we're faced with. The country won't fall at once. It won't fall all at once. It's going to fracture into layers that drift further and further apart. The bottom will feel like Mad Max. The middle will feel like Children of Men. And the top will feel like Elysium. If you've ever seen that. If you haven't watched Mad Max, Children of Men, or Elysium, watch them, and then you will understand what I'm talking about. But if you have seen them, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this here's the thing, this isn't years away. You can already see the early versions of all three layers, depending on where you go, who you talk to, and what you're forced to live through. But here's what makes everything more volatile. People don't handle pressure the way they used to. Not together, not in a coordinated way. Most people are barely keeping their own life from falling apart right now. They're not forming groups, okay? They're not building communities. They're not checking in on their neighbors. They're trying to keep their own head above water at this point. And that's all they can manage. When life gets heavy now, people don't rally, they shut down. They just drift into their own little corners, right? They just disappear in distractions, their phones, their feeds, their substances, anything that helps them to stop feeling overwhelmed for at least 5 freaking minutes. People are in survival mode, not rebellion mode. That's why you're never going to see some big moment where everyone stands up all at once, all at the same time, and says, "We're done." That moment isn't coming. People aren't moving toward each other. They're pulling further apart from one another. And that's how a country splits into layers and stays that way. The top has no reason to come back down. Their life still works. The middle is too drained to push upward because they're running on fumes. And the bottom, they don't have any support left to climb out. Put all that together, and this is what we're heading into. 3 different realities growing inside the same country. And only one of them is truly functioning.